The Cleveland Browns just made a move that has the entire NFL world absolutely losing its mind. We're talking about a franchise that has cycled through more quarterbacks than most teams have had head coaches, a team that's been searching for their savior since the days of Bernie Kosar, and now they're putting all their chips on the table for one name, Shedeur Sanders. This isn't just another draft pick. This isn't just another hopeful quarterback story. This is a gamble so massive, so risky, that it could either catapult the Browns into a new era of dominance or cement their legacy as the NFL's most tragic franchise. The stakes have never been higher, the pressure has never been more intense, and what happens next could literally rewrite the history books. If you want to stay ahead of every twist and turn in this unbelievable story, hit that subscribe button right now, because what's about to unfold in Cleveland is going to be one of the wildest rides the NFL has ever seen. Let's rewind and understand how we got here, because this story doesn't start with Shedeur Sanders. It starts with decades of disappointment, failed experiments, and a fan base that's been beaten down so many times they've almost forgotten what hope feels like. The Cleveland Browns returned to the NFL in 1999, and since that moment, they've started 32 different quarterbacks. 32! Let that sink in for a second. From Tim Couch to Brady Quinn, from Brandon Weeden to Johnny Manziel, from Deshaun Kaiser to Baker Mayfield, and most recently to Deshaun Watson, the Browns have tried everything and everyone. They've drafted high, they've traded big, they've signed free agents, and nothing has worked. The Deshaun Watson experiment, which was supposed to be the answer, turned into one of the most expensive disasters in NFL history. The Browns gave up 3 first-round picks, a third-rounder, and 2 fourth-rounders. They handed Watson a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. And what did they get? Injuries, controversies, inconsistent play, and a quarterback who never looked like the superstar they traded for. Watson's performance was so underwhelming that by late in the 2024 season, whispers started circulating around the league that Cleveland was already looking for an exit strategy. Jimmy Haslam, the Browns' owner who has become synonymous with questionable decisions and impulsive moves, found himself at yet another crossroads. Haslam has been the owner since 2012, and in that time, the Browns have had 9 different head coaches and have made the playoffs only twice. The pressure on him isn't just from fans anymore. It's from sponsors, from the league, from everyone watching this once proud franchise continue to stumble. But here's where things get interesting. Instead of playing it safe, instead of going with a veteran stopgap or a middle-round developmental project, Haslam is reportedly ready to go all in on the most polarizing quarterback prospect in recent memory. Enter Shedeur Sanders, the son of NFL legend and current Colorado Buffaloes head coach Deion Sanders. Shedeur isn't just any college quarterback. He's a player who has been under the microscope since high school, someone who has lived his entire life in the shadow of primetime, and someone who has thrived under that pressure. At Jackson State, playing for his father, Shedeur put up video game numbers. We're talking about a guy who threw for over 8,000 yards and 70 touchdowns in 2 seasons, while completing nearly 70% of his passes. Then came the move to Colorado, a program that was in absolute shambles before the Sanders family arrived. In 2023, Shedeur's first year at Colorado, he threw for over 3,000 yards and 27 touchdowns, while leading the Buffaloes to a dramatic turnaround that captured national attention. The hype was real, the spotlight was blinding, and Shedeur handled it all with a poise that reminded people of his father. But here's the thing about Shedeur that has scouts, analysts, and front offices completely divided. Some see him as the most NFL-ready quarterback in this draft class, a player with elite accuracy, quick decision-making, and the mental toughness to handle any situation. Others see him as a product of his environment, a quarterback who benefited from playing in his father's system with elite protection and weapons around him, and who might not be able to replicate that success at the next level.
The debate around Shedeur Sanders has become one of the most heated discussions in football.
On one side, you have people pointing to his stats, his leadership, his ability to perform in high-pressure games, and his football IQ that seems well beyond his years. On the other side, you have scouts who worry about his arm strength, who question whether he can make all the throws required in the NFL, who wonder if he's been too protected in college and won't be able to handle NFL pass rushes. And then there's the elephant in the room, the Deion Sanders factor. Is Shedeur's talent being overvalued because of his last name, or is he being undervalued because people can't separate him from his father's larger-than-life persona? Now here's where the Cleveland Browns enter the picture, and here's where this gamble becomes absolutely fascinating. According to multiple reports from insiders around the league, the Browns front office has become obsessed with Shedeur Sanders. We're not talking about casual interest or doing their due diligence. We're talking about a full-blown pursuit that has surprised even people within the organization. Sources close to the team have indicated that General Manager Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski have been personally scouting Shedeur throughout the season, that they've had multiple meetings with Deion Sanders, and that they believe Shedeur represents something Cleveland hasn't had in decades, a franchise quarterback with the personality and presence to change the entire culture. But here's the complication. The Browns currently hold a draft position that likely won't allow them to select Shedeur Sanders without making a major move. Teams at the top of the draft, including the Patriots, the Giants, and potentially the Raiders, are all quarterback-needy franchises who could pull the trigger on Shedeur. This means if Cleveland wants him, they're going to have to trade up. And we're not talking about a small trade. We're talking about the kind of blockbuster deal that involves multiple first-round picks, possibly including their 2026 and 2027 selections, along with additional assets. After what they gave up for Deshaun Watson, after how that turned out, the idea of Jimmy Haslam authorizing another massive trade to move up for a quarterback has people absolutely stunned. The risk here cannot be overstated. If the Browns trade up, give up a fortune in draft capital, select Shedeur Sanders, and it doesn't work out, this franchise could be set back another decade. They'd have no first-round picks to rebuild with, they'd still be stuck with Watson's contract on the books, and the fan base, which is already hanging by a thread, might completely revolt. But on the flip side, if Shedeur Sanders is the real deal, if he comes in and proves all the doubters wrong, if he becomes the quarterback that finally breaks Cleveland's curse, then this decision could go down as the boldest and most brilliant move in franchise history. What makes this story even more compelling is the Deion Sanders angle. Primetime has made it abundantly clear that he's going to have a say in where his son plays. He's not going to let Shedeur walk into a terrible situation with no weapons, no protection, and no chance to succeed. Deion has been quoted saying that if a team wants Shedeur, they better be ready to build around him, they better have a plan, and they better treat him right. This has created a bizarre dynamic where teams aren't just scouting Shedeur, they're essentially negotiating with Deion as well. The Browns, understanding this, have reportedly been working overtime to convince Deion that Cleveland, despite its history, is the right landing spot for his son. Jimmy Haslam himself has allegedly been involved in these conversations, which is wild when you think about it. An NFL owner personally recruiting a college player's father, trying to sell him on the vision for the franchise. Haslam has reportedly told Deion that the Browns are willing to do whatever it takes to put Shedeur in position to succeed. That means surrounding him with offensive weapons, investing in the offensive line, bringing in veteran leadership, and building a team culture that supports a young quarterback rather than destroys him. Whether Deion believes Haslam or not remains to be seen, but the fact that these conversations are happening shows just how serious Cleveland is about making this happen. The public reaction to this potential move has been absolutely explosive. Browns fans are split right down the middle. Half of them are excited, seeing Shedeur as a dynamic playmaker who could finally give them a quarterback to be proud of. The other half is terrified, remembering every other time the Browns went all in on a quarterback and it ended in disaster. Social media has been on fire with debates, hot takes, and predictions. Some analysts are calling this move genius, arguing that Shedeur's accuracy and decision-making are exactly what Cleveland needs. Others are calling it insanity, pointing out that the Browns haven't proven they can develop quarterbacks, and throwing another young player into that environment is cruel.
Former NFL players have weighed in too. Some have praised Shedeur's talent and maturity, saying he has the tools to succeed at the next level. Others have warned that the pressure of being a Browns quarterback, combined with the pressure of being Deion Sanders' son, might be too much for anyone to handle. The national media has been covering this story non-stop because, let's be honest, a potential Shedeur Sanders to Cleveland storyline has everything: drama, stakes, history, and the kind of generational talent debate that drives ratings through the roof. But beyond all the noise, beyond all the speculation and hot takes, there's a real football decision that needs to be made here. Let's break down what Shedeur Sanders actually brings to the table. His accuracy is elite. He consistently puts the ball where it needs to be, hitting receivers in stride and giving them chances to make plays after the catch. His pocket presence is impressive for a college player. He feels pressure, steps up when he needs to, and keeps his eyes downfield even when the rush is collapsing. His release is quick, which is crucial in the modern NFL, where you need to get the ball out fast to avoid sacks. His decision-making has been solid throughout his college career, with a touchdown-to-interception ratio that shows he takes care of the ball. Now let's talk about the concerns. His arm strength is good, but not elite. He's not going to wow you with deep balls or throws into tight windows that require elite velocity. Some scouts worry that in the NFL, where windows are tighter and defenses are faster, he might struggle to make certain throws. There are also questions about his mobility. He's not a statue in the pocket, but he's not a dual-threat guy either. In an era where mobile quarterbacks have become increasingly valuable, Shedeur's ability to extend plays with his legs is limited. And then there's the intangible concern about whether he can handle being the guy without his father on the sideline, without the structure and support system he's had throughout his career.
The Browns, if they do pull the trigger on this move, would be betting that Shedeur's strengths outweigh his weaknesses, that his accuracy and intelligence matter more than his arm strength, and that his mental makeup is strong enough to handle the unique challenges of playing quarterback in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski, who has been known for his offensive creativity and ability to scheme guys open, might be the perfect coach for Shedeur. Stefanski's system relies on timing, rhythm, and precision rather than arm talent, which could play perfectly into Shedeur's skill set. But here's the wild card that nobody's really talking about enough. What happens with Deshaun Watson? The Browns are stuck with his contract for the foreseeable future. Even if they draft Shedeur Sanders, even if he becomes the starter, Watson's dead cap hit is going to hamstring this franchise's ability to build around their new quarterback. This creates a bizarre situation where Cleveland might have two expensive quarterbacks on the roster, one who's supposed to be the future and one who represents the past failure. How they navigate that dynamic, how they manage that locker room, and how they allocate resources with Watson's money on the books is going to be absolutely critical. There's also the question of timing. If the Browns draft Shedeur, do they start him immediately? Do they sit him for a year and let him learn? Given the pressure on this organization, given the expectations that will come with trading up to get him, and given the fan base's desperation for results, it's hard to imagine a scenario where Shedeur doesn't start right away. That means he'll be thrown into the fire from day one, facing NFL defenses, dealing with NFL pressure, and carrying the weight of an entire franchise on his shoulders. Not every rookie can handle that. Some thrive in it. The question is, which type of player is Shedeur Sanders? What makes this decision even more fascinating is that it represents everything that's right and wrong with the modern NFL. It's a league driven by desperation for franchise quarterbacks, where teams will mortgage their futures for a chance at finding the guy. It's a league where analytics, scouting, and gut feelings all collide in the draft room, where billion-dollar decisions are made based on incomplete information and educated guesses. It's a league where one pick can change the trajectory of a franchise for the next decade, and where front offices live and die by their ability to evaluate quarterback talent. Jimmy Haslam has been criticized for years for being too involved, for making emotional decisions, for not trusting his football people. But in this case, if reports are accurate, this isn't just Haslam acting on impulse. This is Andrew Berry, who has a reputation as one of the sharper minds in football, fully backing this move. This is Kevin Stefanski, who took the Browns to the playoffs despite starting 4 different quarterbacks in 2023, believing that Shedeur is the answer. When you have your GM and your head coach aligned on a quarterback, when they're willing to put their jobs on the line for this pick, that says something. The draft is still months away, but the groundwork is being laid right now. The Browns are positioning themselves, making calls to teams ahead of them, trying to figure out what it would take to move up. Other teams are watching closely, because if Cleveland gets aggressive, it could trigger a domino effect throughout the entire first round. The Patriots might panic and take a quarterback earlier than planned. The Giants might decide they need to move up too. The entire top of the draft could be reshuffled because of Cleveland's pursuit of Shedeur Sanders. And through all of this, Shedeur himself has remained remarkably composed. He's said all the right things in interviews, he's focused on finishing his college career strong, and he's avoided getting drawn into the speculation. But make no mistake, he knows what's at stake. He knows that where he lands will define his career. He knows that going to Cleveland would mean walking into one of the most challenging situations in football, but also one of the most rewarding if he can pull it off. The chance to be the guy who finally fixes the Browns, who finally gives that tortured fan base something to believe in, is the kind of legacy-defining opportunity that doesn't come around often. As we get closer to the draft, as more information leaks out, as the chess pieces continue to move, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The Cleveland Browns are going for it. They're done playing it safe. They're done with half measures, and they're ready to make a statement. Whether that statement is brilliant or disastrous, whether Shedeur Sanders becomes a hero or another name on the long list of Cleveland quarterback failures, we won't know for sure until it plays out on the field. But the decision is coming, and when it does, it will be one of the most scrutinized, analyzed, and debated moves in recent NFL history. This is more than just a draft pick. This is about identity, about belief, about whether a franchise that has been knocked down so many times can finally get back up and fight. This is about Jimmy Haslam's legacy as an owner, about whether he'll be remembered as the guy who couldn't get it right or the guy who finally did. This is about Shedeur Sanders stepping out of his father's shadow and proving he belongs in the NFL on his own merits. And most importantly, this is about a fan base that has suffered through decades of disappointment, holding on to hope one more time, praying that this time will be different. The Cleveland Browns are gambling big on Shedeur Sanders, and that one decision could absolutely rewrite NFL history. If it works, we'll look back on this as the moment everything changed for this franchise. If it doesn't, well, it'll just be another chapter in the never-ending story of Cleveland's search for a quarterback. But either way, we're about to find out, and the entire football world is watching. That's where things stand right now with the Cleveland Browns and their reported pursuit of Shedeur Sanders. This story is still developing, and a lot can change between now and draft day. It's important to note that the information presented here is based on reports from league sources, media coverage, and publicly available information. Nothing is official until the Browns actually make their pick, and the NFL draft is notoriously unpredictable. We'll continue following this story as it unfolds, because if Cleveland does pull off this move, it's going to be one of the biggest storylines of the entire offseason.